I want to take you now to Jacinta Allan. The Premier is stepping up before the mics, answering questions from journalists about the CFMEU. This is the first time since we saw that report yesterday morning.
Knowing too that the requirement of that body is to refer it to the relevant authorities for further investigation. We have passed laws to strengthen the Labour Hire Authority regulations because labour hire was identified as an area of concern. We've acted to strengthen the regulations around Labour Hire Authority, but particularly the fit and proper person test requirements. For example, anyone who has a known association with criminal organisations is identified through that process. We've also, too, recognising the role that private construction companies play in this process, now have a requirement through our procurement policies to require those private construction companies to report any allegation or concern that they may see or is raised with them on their work sites, to ensure again that it is investigated by the relevant law enforcement agencies. And then finally, we've also strengthened the framework around which the law enforcement agencies work together. These are matters that cover different regulatory bodies and different policing jurisdictions, which is why we have adopted the recommendation that there be an alliance of law enforcement agencies. It is chaired by Victoria Police. It involves the Federal Police, the Fair Work Commission and other relevant regulatory bodies. And this process we are seeing now with the work that Victoria Police is also undertaking through Task Force Hawk is seeing a crackdown on this behaviour, and that crackdown will continue because we have absolutely zero tolerance for this behaviour. It is clear there has been a rotten culture that needs to be weeded out, and that work is being undertaken both by the federal administrator but also too by the work that we are undertaking here in Victoria, and the work particularly that I thank Victoria Police for undertaking.
Victoria, you were the Infrastructure Minister between 2018 and 2023 over different periods. Were you ignorant to it or were you in on it? I mean, that was happening in 2018, but you say the Wilson report was released in 2024.
Well, as I have made clear on previous occasions, and I've made clear again this morning, when allegations were raised with me, they were referred to the relevant authority for their investigation. I have said that on previous occasions. When the media reports around the widespread nature of this rotten culture became public in the middle of 2024, we acted immediately, recognising that this is unacceptable behaviour in any workplace, but particularly on construction sites, whether it's here in Victoria or around the nation. And so that is why we commissioned Greg Wilson to undertake that inquiry, and we have implemented those recommendations from that Wilson inquiry. That goes to strengthening the requirements that construction companies have to report this behaviour if they're seeing it on their work sites, giving a safe and secure body for workers to be able to report this criminal behaviour, any allegations of criminal behaviour that they see on their work sites. So we are taking action immediately, and most importantly too, supporting the work of the Federal Administrator, who has a very challenging and difficult job, but he has moved quickly. These bad actors are not involved in the union, they are not involved in this industry, and we are supporting the work of the Administrator. Now, can I also be clear? Can I just be clear? I'm happy to answer all of the questions, but we'll do it in a way where if you could ask the questions and I'll respond to them accordingly.
Not the future. What happened in the past on your watch?
Well, Heidi, I'm talking about exactly. I'm answering that correctly. You may have... You may have, in your haste to talk over the top of me, you may have missed the actions that I said I took. The actions that I took were that when I was Minister, when allegations were raised with me, they were referred to the relevant authority who had the relevant powers to investigate and follow these matters through. That is the action I took. Further to that action, when there was the widespread reporting of this rotten culture, and I absolutely acknowledge that this is a rotten culture that needs to be weeded out, we took further immediate action, both supporting the work of the Federal Administrator, recognising, of course, where the industrial relations powers sit in this matter, absolutely supporting the work of the Administrator and the work he is doing. But we went further than that here in Victoria, and we now have in place, as a result of that further work, a strengthened compliance and reporting regime that makes it absolutely clear that anyone on any worksite who sees behaviour, has concerns about behaviour, not only has a safe and secure body to report those concerns to, they know that there is a requirement of that body to undertake further investigations. There's a requirement of the construction companies to report allegations of serious behaviour on their work sites. The private construction companies who are contracted by the government, who employ the workforce, and who it is, when they are delivering the projects, it is my government's expectation that those projects are delivered on work sites that are safe and comply with the law.
Corruption has added $15 billion.
Sorry, I didn't hear the
Sorry, this corruption.
Can I just reiterate? We can all get through the questions, but I can't answer questions if I can't hear them. So let's try again.
In the redacted parts of Jeffrey Watson's report, potentially $15 billion added to some of these major projects from corruption, potentially even $30 billion. How can taxpayers be confident that your government is doing enough? That's $30 billion, potentially billions more flowing into the hands of criminals.
I want to be, and I appreciate you've raised this at the outset, I want to be absolutely clear that that is a claim that the Administrator has said is not well tested or properly founded. So let's be clear, that is not a claim that has been substantiated by the Administrator.
So you're confident that billions hasn't been flowing to the hands?
Let's be clear, that claim of any amount has not been well tested or properly founded, as said by the Administrator. And that is why we have in place a program where there are any allegations of criminal behaviour, because in terms of criminal behaviour, it is for the law enforcement agencies, Victoria Police, particularly the Federal Police, to investigate any claim. So anyone, and I have said this consistently, anyone who has any evidence or any concern of criminal behaviour should be reporting that to Victoria Police. And that should be done immediately, without hesitation, because these are serious matters. Absolutely serious matters, and this rotten culture needs to be dealt with, because I have zero tolerance for it. But anyone, including claims that have been made in the past 24 hours, they need to be referred to the relevant law enforcement agencies, and that is a position of the Administrator. That is my position, and it has been my position for some time, that anyone with information should be reporting it to Victoria Police.
Can you disprove that figure?
I can only point to the Administrator himself has said, who has the materials that you are referring to, these claims that are not well tested or properly founded.
Now that you have the rest of the report, will you the financial impact of these issues on work sites?
Well, there is work that is being led by the Administrator. And again, if there is any allegation of criminal behaviour, of the misuse of any allegation around criminal behaviour, must be referred to the relevant law enforcement agencies. And I point to Victoria Police. Victoria Police have a dedicated task force Hawk. They have laid 70 charges against 15 individuals, and as we saw today, took action again this morning in arresting someone who was allegedly involved in this criminal behaviour. That demonstrates that where there is information and evidence that is of importance to Victoria Police, they will act, because there is work now in place here in Victoria that demonstrates a zero tolerance for this rotten culture.
It hasn't been tested, Premier. Are you saying you don't believe the claims?
I'm referring to the Administrator. That quote.
You said you
No,
agree
look.
that haven't been tested.
Well, I can,
Do you not believe
in terms of the information that is contained in this claim, that is information that is held with the Federal Administrator and those processes, and it is the Administrator who has said that these are claims that are not well tested.
Will you seek to claw back the taxpayer dollars that flowed to people like the man who arrested today and other organised criminal figures who government approach?
That's where we leave Jacinta Allan commenting on the CFMEU.